We are going nuclear as fuck on this episode. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Scott and I am your host as I take you through another review of a horror movie that I've seen with no airs, no graces and just my honest open opinion. Before I get into the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the notification bell so you know when I drop new videos. Today I am looking at a movie from 2012 that was panned by audiences, not just critics but general audience as well. And this is the 2012 Chernobyl Diaries. This had an 18% score on Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. And I'll be honest, I pay no attention to critics' scores because in general, I don't agree with most things critics say. As a general rule, if a critic says something is awful, I normally watch it and go, no, it's actually pretty good. What the fuck are you talking about? But this was absolutely demolished by general audiences. And general audiences tend to give a better perspective of a film. They scored this at 28. I watched this when it came out and I was kind of like, it was one of those that I saw and it never really sank in. I watched it and I just carried on with my life. So I wanted to rewatch it, and I have some issues with it, and I think we'll get those out of the way first. But before I do, I'm going to give you a brief plot. So a brief plot is a group of friends are basically traveling Europe and they book themselves an extreme tour, and that extreme tour is a trip in to see the area in and around Chernobyl and take some photographs and basically do touristy bit in. You've all seen the photos of the big Ferris wheel, like in and around that, and go and have a look at a couple of the houses where everything was left and then leave. That's the premise of the movie, and obviously when they get there things go horribly wrong. Now the issues I have with this is Chernobyl is one of the worst disasters in the history of the world. It is one of the worst nuclear disasters ever. And I don't know how I feel about using that area as a setting for a horror movie. And it was really difficult for me to overcome that. I don't know if this is done very well, very tastefully. And then later in the movie, the villains are the survivors of Chernobyl that have now mutated. And again, I don't know how that sits with me. It doesn't sit very well. I don't think that's the best decision to make here. But by the same token, I don't think either of these things was done out of any disrespect. And I don't think that the writer or director meant to cause any offence or harm. I think they just decided that this was a fucking cool setting for a horror movie, and mutated people after a nuclear disaster is also something that's genuinely terrifying. And they're right, like that works. But I think because it is linked to a real event, a real disaster, a real huge incident, that it makes it a bitter pill to swallow, and I struggled with that. The film itself is actually pretty good, and if you can overcome those hurdles that I struggled with, I think this doesn't get enough credit. So it's written by the same person who wrote and directed Paranormal Activity. To give you an idea of kind of the production quality you're looking, and it sits somewhere between a hybrid found footage and an actual shot movie. There are some elements in this that are awe-inspiring, and these are mainly the footage in and around the old reactor and in and around sort of the village that surrounds Chernobyl. Like, I found these haunting not because of the setting of a horror movie, but because of the disaster that happened, and seeing the Ferris wheel and the fun fair and seeing inside some of the homes and the things that have just been left behind. Like, that was what really drew me in. I was so interested to see what was there and see how everything was just left. Like, that I found fascinating. The actual story I thought was pretty good. So they go off and they go and do their touristy bit where they take photographs, and they go up into some of the flats and they take photographs of the reactor behind them, and then they start hearing noises, and I was like, oh, okay, right, we're going straight in. But it's a bear, and that scene with the bear I thought was funny. It really, really hooked me into the characters, and the acting in this is not perfect. There's no one in this I would say is, wow, they're a breakout star. But also, there's no one in this I would say they are a terrible actor or actress, which is something that, again, it's been criticised for online. Um, the story takes some dark turns, and it makes some bold leaps in how it moves forward. I think there are far too many horror tropes played one on top of the other. Someone goes off, someone else goes to follow them. One person gets got, the other person gets injured, they come back. They go to find something, they need something to get their van restarted. They go on a little side quest. The stuff they need is down in a tunnel, so they go down. Like it's all the stuff like in this situation, none of the decisions they made would be made by a normal human. At no point would you do anything that anyone done here. When it first went to shit and the van didn't start, you'd have walked I think it was 12 miles to the checkpoint. Like, it's not even a debate. At no point would you go exploring Chernobyl looking for cable. At no point would you go out looking for the person who you believe has been attacked by a pack of animals. Like, you just wouldn't do that. And I think that's one thing this film really got wrong, was the decision making process. Like, no one would make the decisions they make, and that, I think, is another reason this got panned. Overall, though, as a general performance, as a general movie, I think this is actually pretty good. And if you bother to stick around to the end, they do a good job of removing sort of the survivors as the villains, because the survivors are not villains. The survivors are heavily mutated, but the villains are the government, who've been experimenting on these survivors for the last 25 years and have had them locked up, and the survivors have now just got out. And they do a really good job of kind of dialing back what they've done. And I don't think people got far enough through to experience that. But I would love to know what you think. What do you think about the Chernobyl Diaries? Do you think this is one that is done in bad taste and generally bad, or do you think this is one that's actually okay and it deserves a little bit more credit than it's worth? Let me know in the comments, and until next time, have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all soon.